Good morning. I'm Dr. David Crocker with Solutions by Dr. Dave. It is Friday, and it is April the 19th. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about assertiveness. Now, this is a topic and a life hack, so to speak, that I was exposed to formally when I was visiting someone close to me who was in drug rehab. And in order to go and visit with this close friend, visitors were required to have a little session with a psychologist prior to the meeting, family meetings and so forth. And the topic, it was a group, and the topic of the discussion was assertiveness, and I found it to be extremely enlightening and helpful. It rung very true, and I'll just kind of address it in basic terms today. So assertiveness is the ability to express how you feel. A lot of times when we're in relationships or in situations with other people, there may be certain feelings that are elicited in us based on their behaviors or what they say, and this may be bothersome to us, right? And sometimes we react to this by being very passive. It's like, oh, this shouldn't bother me, so I swallow it, allow it to happen, but it doesn't resolve the resentment or the shame that is associated with it. And then another way of dealing with this type of hurt is to be aggressive, lash out at the person who you perceive as having been hurtful to you. And a lot of times the passive and the aggressive go together, meaning that we behave passively in the face of hurtful things to the point where it builds up, and then we explode with this exaggerated aggressive response because we've kind of been fed up. We've had enough. So what assertiveness is essentially a middle ground to this type of behavior, and it has a lot of social and psychological benefits. And it's an exercise in interpersonal relationships. When someone says or does something that affects you, that you find hurtful or bothersome, try addressing it with that person in this assertive way where you describe how it makes you feel. For example, I might say that when you speak to me that way, I feel belittled, and it makes me feel negative about myself. I don't know if that is your intent, but it makes me feel that way. And you can see that when I describe how I feel, it's much more disarming, it's much more effective, it doesn't bring up the ego in the other person like lashing out does. And there's no arguing with the way you feel. You're always correct when you describe the way you feel. And this puts the ball back in the other person's court, essentially. It's like they can choose to be sympathetic, empathetic, or they can choose not to care. And this is where the hard part of assertiveness comes in, and that is laying down ultimata, right? An ultimatum that, hey, listen, when this happens, I feel this way. It's not fair. I'm not willing to feel this way. And absent any fault, if this continues to happen, I will do something to change it because I won't live my life this way. And the ultimatum is often the difficult part because we're afraid that a lot of us are afraid of rejection or abandonment, and we have issues like that which complicate things. But the old saying, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, it's not a judgment, it's just that if you don't face things directly, then you tend to relive the same issues over and over again. And I think being assertive, again, this is a very honest and sincere way of addressing interpersonal friction. And again, when you describe how you feel, there's no argument about that. Now, people may get defensive, and you can allow people to get defensive without reacting defensively yourself, and that's a skill that you can develop with practice, right? And also very valuable, not taking things personally and not putting a moral judgment on people, right? People don't like to be judged, and that will automatically put them in a defensive posture. So I'll ramble a little bit about assertiveness this morning and how it's a grand alternative to the passiveness and the aggressiveness that we often bring into interpersonal relationships. It builds closeness. It builds trust when you speak from the heart. And it also opens your world, right? You're not walking around worrying about it lightens your load, so to speak. You've said what you need to say, and somehow that's very therapeutic, and you can move on with your life in a very honest way. Anyway, that's my little talk for the morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you all much. Peace.